Hello, my name is Allison. This is my first ever YouTube video, so please be nice. Today I wanted to show you how I made this really baggy sweatshirt and sweatpants into something really cute. It's kind of like a little jumpsuit. You would see something from like the 80s. It's so comfortable to wear to bed, and I overall just really like it. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is put the pants on inside out and pin along the side so that it fits comfortably, not too loose, not too tight. I'm now going to pin about 2 inches into the crotch area and then go right down the side so that it has a nice smooth finish. Now I'm just pinning along the back. To make the sweatshirt part fit better, pin about 3 to 4 inches in along the end seam. Now obviously each sweatshirt is going to be different, so just try it on and figure out what works best for you. Now what you're going to want to do is cut the cuff off of each sleeve and then cut the hem off the bottom part of your sweatshirt, making it as close as possible. We're going to need as much fabric as we can for when we attach it to our pants. Okay, so for my neckline, I'm going to cut around and make it nice and wide. We need to fit our entire body through this. So we need to make it as wide as possible without it falling off our shoulders. And to give this a nice look, I am cutting it an inch lower in the front than the back. Taking the hemline from the bottom of my sweatshirt, I'm going to lay it out flat and cut right down the middle. We don't need as much knit for the neckline as it will be much smaller. I'm cutting it this thin because the neckline is going to be much thinner than the cuffs on our ankles and wrists. After sewing the 2 thin strips of my knit together, what I'm doing is I'm folding it in half and I am pinning it alongside the outside of my sweatshirt, making sure that the raw edges are aligned perfectly together. It's important to stay conscious as to where your seam lines are. For example, when you sewed the 2 thin strips of knit together, you created a seam line. So you want to be careful that it's not right in the front of your sweatshirt. So maybe shift it along the side so that when you pin it, it's not right in the front and it is rather in the back or somewhere not seen. Once I have everything pinned, I'm just going to sew a straight line right along the edge. After I sewed my raw edge, I ran a serger over it just to give it a clean look, and now I have flattened it out and I'm going over it again with a twin needle. If you don't know what that is, it basically is 2 needles, 1 on each side of the hem, and it does help with stretch as well as a professional look. Okay, so finally we are connecting our sweatshirt with our sweatpants. First thing I did was I folded the end of my sweatshirt up so that the fold laid right on my waistline. And now what I'm doing is I am pinning 1 inch up from my fold and using my elastic as a guideline. This is what we're going to put our elastic into. Once I'm done pinning, I'm just going to sew along that line that I made, and before I get to the end, I'm just going to leave about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of space so that I have somewhere to put my elastic through. Finally, we are at the part where we are connecting our sweatshirt top to our sweatshirt pants. What I'm doing is I am aligning the seams on each side, making sure that I don't go over into that little area that we made specifically before for our elastic. If we do sew into that area, it's just going to create no room for our elastic, and that is bad news. I'm going about this by just taking my sweatshirt and my sweatpants and putting them inside out, and I am pinning the outside of my sweatshirt to that part that I folded over. Okay, so this next part was super difficult to do. I was sewing along the line that I pinned beforehand, and the area that I made, especially for my elastic, was right up against it. So if you're going to be doing this, make sure that you do not let the elastic little hoop whatever area fold does not get underneath that needle, because if it does, you are screwed. Serging off them edges, I completely failed to take my own advice and sewed all the way around, so I'm just taking a little seam ripper and ripping open a little hole so that I can put my elastic in. As you can see, I'm using a large safety pin and pinning it to the edge of my elastic and just shoving it through that little hole and then working it around the waistband. So after spending 27 years pushing the elastic through the hole, just take your safety pin and connect it to your previous piece. I tried it on and connected the elastic again, just to make sure that everything fit right and it was the perfect amount of snug. Sew the two pieces of elastic together, lay them flat, and then sew along each side so that it's flat, just like this. Push the elastic back into the hole and then sew on top so that it has a nice clean finish. As you can see here, I already got a little ahead of myself and adjusted the waistband so that the seam where I sewed the top of my sweatshirt and the bottom of my pants together was directly on the back, as opposed to beforehand where the seam was laying on the side of the elastic. For the waistband, I'm sewing two sets of parallel lines using the same twin needle we used beforehand. There's one laying right on the top, keeping that little top flap down, and then one on the bottom, keeping that part down as well. Remember that knit we didn't use for the neckline? We're going to take that same knit and use it as the cuff on our sweatpants. I already went ahead and cut out two pieces and cut them into shapes of kind of like a ribbon. I measured it out beforehand to make sure that it fit around my ankle. And as you can see, you're just going to cut along that little triangle, as I already did here, and sew along that edge, so that once you fold it inside out, you have a nice little cuff that's wider on the edge that has the raw edges, and then it's smaller along the end so that it really hugs your ankle. So in order to make my cuff fit along the edge of my pant leg, I need to shorten it a little bit on the end, and you can see the pins that I used to just slim down the leg. But before you do any of that, it's important to mark where you want your cuff to be. I just did this by turning my pants inside out and then marking a few inches above where I wanted my cuff to end. You need to do this because once we sew it, we're going to flip the cuff down and it's going to extend the pant leg. Now that I've done that, I'm just going to push my cuff over my pant leg, making sure that the raw edges are facing downwards and that my sweatpants are the right side out. I'm using my foot just to stretch open the pant leg. You can use literally anything else. I don't care. I'm using my foot. Whatever. Once I aligned my seams, I'm just going to pin around the cuff, making sure that my needles are pointing towards me, not going around. This is going to make it so much harder to sew. Once you've done that, just sew along the raw edges. And then of course, serge off that extra fabric. And now for the professional look, we are using our double needle again and sewing over our hem, making sure that one stitch is going over the pant leg and the other stitch is going over our cuff. For the cuffs of our sleeves, just repeat the same steps that we did for the cuffs of our pant legs, and then we should all be good to go for the sweatshirt and sweatpants. For our obi belt, take your fabric and fold it in half. Then pin along the edge of your pattern. There's a link in the description box below to a PDF of the pattern I'm using right now. Then take the end of your strap and extend it all the way down to the rest of your fabric. Mine is about 2 inches in width. Sew along the lines that we made beforehand and then serge off the excess. You can also cut it off, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now comes the more difficult part. Basically what you want to do is take a large safety pin like the one we used before on our waistband and then drop it into our obi belt and work it all the way down to the very edge. From there you will need to pin to one side of the fabric and then work that pin all the way back down to the outside. Once you see the safety pin, you can pull it out and then pull the rest of your belt through. Next thing I did was I cut a piece of cardboard about 2 inches in width, the same width of our belt, and I attached a piece of string on the end. This is just a little trick I do to make sure that the belt is nice and flat and that nothing is folded in on itself. From there I can just use my piece of cardboard to pin along the edge. To hem the end of my belt, I just cut off the excess and then I folded both sides in so that it had a nice finished look. Repeat the same steps as before to make a second part of the obi belt. Then once you're done with that, align two of the pieces together so that they perfectly overlap each other. They should look something like this. Sew the two pieces together, and that is the last step for your obi belt.
Is that on? I don't know if it's on. So that was my first ever YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed it. Wait, that door's open. Okay, we're back. So that was my first ever YouTube video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had so much fun making it. I thought it was just a blast. I mean, obviously getting the camera everywhere and taking the shots was so annoying. I actually broke my camera stand in the process, just snapped it right off because I got so aggravated trying to get this weird angle for something. I don't know. I loved this outfit, you guys. I thought when I was making it, I was like, I don't know if I'm actually ever gonna really wear this. Turns out I wear it like every single night to bed. It's so comfortable. If you're curious as to what sweatshirt and sweatpants I used, I actually just went on Hanes and got like a men's XL sweatshirt and sweatpants in, I think it's like a stone gray is what it's called on their website. I'm not really sure, but I ended up just going online and getting a pair. Initially, I went to Salvation Army and, well, Salvation Army is probably the only national one. I went to my local thrift shops and I just looked around everywhere and I noticed that a lot of the items were kind of just like really gross. Big surprise there. Sweatpants in a thrift shop? Gross? What? No, they were actually really just pilly, and also it's big surprise number two, it's really difficult to find large sweatpants that match large sweatshirts. If you are able to find a sweatshirt and a sweatpants that really do match, then go for it. I found that the obi belt was super cute. I was extremely shocked. I actually found it from, it wasn't even in the pattern, it was this old vintage pattern. It was on the illustration that was for the pattern, but it wasn't actually included in the pattern itself. But I thought it was super cute and it was really easy to make. It was not difficult to make at all. I actually paired it with a couple of another outfits, a few dresses, and it was so adorable. I'll leave a clip right now of me trying it on. Yes, very cute, work it. And I think if you follow this video, it should probably only take you maybe a weekend or something like that. I think, yeah, if I had this video and I was redoing it, it probably would only take me a weekend. Overall, it really didn't take that much time. I think I would just love to make some more. I have so many ideas, so if you want, leave a comment and let me know. Maybe you have ideas that you want to see on paper, but you're not quite sure how to go about them. Maybe leave a comment or message me, and then I'll be like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's figure this out. You want to make a turquoise dress that has two fins coming out at the back end? Let's see if we can do that. I don't know. I don't really care. It's just fun. You know, let's just make something out of nothing. Let's do that. That sounds fun to me.